Hello, friends. I am Chevee. Welcome to my shed. How are you today? How's life in your world? How's things where you are? I hope it's fantastic. Everything here is great. And today we have another book review because I actually read two books last week. And this is a book called Where They Wait from Scott Carson. Um, this is the second book from the fictional author Scott Carson. I say that because it is a pseudonym, and the author is getting ready to release his third book under that pseudonym. I'd never heard of Scott Carson. I also had never heard of his real, I don't know who he is, the author. Apparently he's written a bunch of books, but they're all thriller mystery type stuff, and there's some, I think even some nonfiction. But he decided to move his sort of supernatural stuff to a pseudonym. So Scott Carson is the name he chose. I bought this because I believe it was an ad that I saw. I've been trying to find that sort of, oh, that's what it was. I was looking for sort of returning home supernatural stories. Like, that's kind of what I'm working towards. And this was suggested, and so I bought it. It was $2 or something on Kindle store. Bought it, read it. For a little bit, for the early beginning of the book, I was kind of just like, I don't think I'm going to like this. By the end, I very much liked it. I thought it was an excellent book. I have seen a bit of the next, like this is the next whatever, or I've seen quite a lot of comparisons between him and Stephen King, and I've seen a lot of Stephen King's praises on a lot of his books, and I get it. This does feel a lot like a King book in the sense that his writing style is very relaxed. It's very conversational. I enjoy that a lot. He's not being super flashy with words. He's being very descriptive about people and their feelings and places and things. And the story is somewhat, it is a supernatural story. There's a supernatural element to the story. And so by the end of the book, I think I ended up giving this a 4 out of 5. It kept me going. I was like, oh, I'm really interested in seeing what's next. There were some good spooks. There were some good, I think for me, when I read a sort of, this isn't really a horror story, but there's some horror to it. When I read a horror element that sticks with me and makes me question my own reality or makes me have bad dreams or something like that, I consider it well done. And I think that this accomplished that. This gave me some thoughts about the way that I interact with technology in the world. The book is about a guy returning home to do a job. He's out of work. Oh, this is the other thing. He's a writer, and my story is all of those tropes, like a writer going back home, investigative journalism. This is it. And so I was really, when it checked all the boxes for things I'm trying to write, I thought, okay, I got to read this. So I read it. I think that the characters presented are interesting. The premise is interesting. The story is well paced. It makes you want to learn more, makes you want to dig deeper. But it has issues. Like, it's a story with issues. There's a lot of, you really need to suspend some disbelief. And I would say that unlike King tends to have a reason to tell you everything, and you will learn the reason by the end of the book. He might take a character in some like weird side quest scene with something that doesn't make any sense, but he'll tie that back in later. There's a lot of side quest stuff in here that is not resolved, and or a lot of mystery that's just left as like, oh well, I needed it for that scene. It feels like, so there are some dings, and the thing I've realized recently is I like books where I am invested in the character and that I have an emotional response to that character overcoming whatever it is. The arc of the hero's journey, the whatever. I like it when I feel invested in the character and I have a reaction. That doesn't exist in this book. I feel like the character doesn't have an arc in this book. I mean, you could find one. Trust me, it's there, but it's not an emotional journey. It's more of an acceptance of reality or an acceptance of what's been done to the character. the character does have an obvious impact on the world as a whole, and that could be the arc if you want to say that. But it's not an emotional. There's no overcoming that final doubt, overcoming that final whatever. That doesn't happen here, and so I did not have that. Oh wow, for the character. At the same time, I also enjoy books like this that don't have that emotional journey. I like books where the character has to be witty or to piece things together that don't make sense initially and figure something out. And that's what this is. So this falls more in line with like a mystery genre where there's not a character arc that's driving the story. The story is mostly plot and mostly mystery. That's fine. I like that too. So this is one of those, right? This is that kind of story. Even though there is a lot of character, Scott Carson, whoever he is, whatever his real name is, put a lot of effort into giving us strong characters with strong character traits and believable actions. So there's that. And so from this point forward, we'll talk a little bit about spoilers. So if you don't want to hear spoilers and you want to read a good supernatural mystery thriller book, I would recommend Where They Wait. But from now on, spoilers. So the book involves a kind of bullshit premise of a character who's out of work, and he talks to a friend back home who works at a university, and that friend offers him $5,000 to write a story in the alumni newspaper. And he goes, I don't really want it. And then the guy's like, it's $5,000. Like, you need to do this. Come on, whatever. That whole setup was kind of like, ugh. Like, first of all, I work in higher ed. Nobody's paying $5,000 for a spot piece in an alumni magazine. If they are, if there is an alumni magazine, they're writing it internally, like a professor's writing that, or even a grad, or maybe just a student. They're not paying that. So that was weird. The dude has zero work opportunity in his life, and he's turning down $5,000. That was also weird. Granted, he was like a Pulitzer nominated investigative journalist or whatever, but he goes along with it. Now, to be fair, by the end of the book, that setup is kind of resolved. They go like, didn't you feel like that was a lot of money? And he's like, yeah, it kind of did. And they're like, didn't you feel like it was a little? Yeah, it was. So it plays in, but that was part of the setup was part of the reason in the beginning of the book I was just kind of like, oh, come on, is this going to be like this kind of just you have to go with it kind of story? In some ways, yes. So the character goes home. The character finds out that he's doing a piece on this wellness company, this app, this whatever. This guy puts an app on his phone. He starts having weird visions. He starts having a sort of an addictive draw to using this app. It's a kind of a meditation app or whatever. And by the end, we find out that this app is... So I think there has been myths about death songs for a long time. The idea that there is a song that you can listen to that'll make you commit suicide. And that's this book, right? There was an M. Night Shyamalan movie not too long ago where people was it the I never saw it, but that's the imagery I had. Like if you played this over a loudspeaker, then a bunch of people would jump off buildings. For some reason, people who hear this song want to climb to the highest structure and step off of it at dark. Okay. So that's the thing. So and now this main character, doesn't commit suicide. He hears it and doesn't commit suicide. And we find out throughout the book that his mom was some sort of behavioral scientist. She programmed him so he doesn't have nightmares and he doesn't process trauma the same way as other people. So he's able to hear this song and he's able to use it and without committing suicide, while other people who listen to it, 9 out of 10 have died. He's the 10th and he didn't, and so on and so on. From that point forward, you find out these parts. It all kind of, I don't want to say it falls apart. It doesn't. It wraps up fine. But it definitely turns into more of a, you have to just kind of go with it, right? The ending of the book is you just kind of have to say whatever. I'm just going to accept that whatever I'm being told is factual, or whatever I'm being told is the way it is, and I'm not going to question it, and I'm just going to go along. So there is the ending of the book, character-wise, is fun and enjoyable, and some bad stuff happens, some good stuff happens, that sort of thing. But story-wise, it's just kind of flat. There's a lot set up that isn't resolved, like I was saying about Stephen King earlier. This character mentions seeing the fog, and there is no fog. And sometimes in some scenes it reads as if there is no fog. He can see everything just fine, and then in the next paragraph, suddenly he can't see anything because there's this fog that's too dense to see anything. There's weird stuff like that happening. You have to just accept that doesn't make sense, and it's not going to make sense. You have to accept that this death song is some sort of tradition that the person who learns the song and can use the song can help people shuffle off into the afterlife, but somehow that got screwed up, and now there's this purgatory of dead sailors who are waiting to move on, but they can't because there has to be a whole crew. Like there's this whole rule structure that gets set up that doesn't make any sense and is never explained. You just have to, okay, I guess those are the rules, and for no reason. And so there's a whole lot of that. There's a whole lot of hand waving at the end where you're just kind of like, all right, whatever. But like I said before, this is more about that story than it is about the character, or it's more about the character accepting that. The character accepting that his memory's been erased, he has no way to process trauma, and pushing through that. And the details of that weird side story, the weird purgatory stuff, doesn't really matter. Like, you can, whatever. I will say, I gave it a 4 out of 5. Like, I kept reading. I was enjoying my read, but I did a lot of skimming near the end. There were some very lengthy sections that were just like, can we push this along, please? And for as much as there was at the end about all of the backstory to this song, I think things could have been tied up a little neater, but unfortunately they weren't. It was just kind of left to be like, well, you just have to accept that's how it is. You just have to accept that whatever, these sailors are waiting, and like, even though that's never part of the folklore of this song or whatever, that's just what it is. And the fact that he's now addicted to the song, that's never explained, and that's never happened before. Like, you just go, all right, well, I guess whatever, and I'll just move on with my life. So it's gonna have kind of a sloppy ending. It does have a sloppy ending, but I think it's okay. Like, that's not the point. The ending is not the ending of the song, and all that stuff is not the point. There is a sort of can this song do actual like magic that comes in play, but I felt satisfied. I'm gonna go. I'm not reading it yet, but I'm going to pick up his first book. Is called The Chill. I'm going to read that next, and then I'm going to read the new book when it comes out next month. So if you're interested in Scott Carson, or you're interested in his books or whatever, stick around for future reviews of his work. I feel like while I was reading it, I was like, oh, this might be my personal next, like, I'm not saying that he's the next Stephen King, but this is a good feel. This is that kind of thing, and I like that. It's to me kind of a popcorn and comfort sort of thing. Like, this is cozy, but it's not. This is not a cozy book. I'm saying it gives me those kind of, this is just nice reading without feeling overwhelmed, and I like that. So that's why I gave it 4 out of 5. So that is Where They Wait from Scott Carson. Links below. Thank you for being here as always. Thank you for liking, commenting, subscribing, being amazing friends and wonderful people. I really appreciate you, and I'll see you again tomorrow. Today's word you should know sounds smart is tortuous. It's an adjective meaning intricate and indirect, not straightforward. Critics don't know that it's hard to write a good play and twice as hard and tortuous to write a bad one. Anton Chekhov, a Russian dramatist. Tortuous. Tortuous. Not torturous. Tortuous. Intricate and indirect, not straightforward. Torturous would be like, painful or whatever. Those are different words, right?